The Celtic Exchange, a fresh insight on Celtic Football Club.
Celtic took a step closer to a Scottish Cup final in May this week by comfortably dealing with Dundee United in what could have been a tricky away tie at Tannadice. We'll now face Rangers 3 times in the space of a few weeks in April after being drawn against them in the semi-finals, and it'll be 3 games that go a long way to defining the success of this debut season under Ange Postecoglou. This is episode 61 of the Celtic Exchange Weekly. This is Tino, and this week I'm joined by James and Paddy to cover all things Celtic. James, are you looking forward to a mad old time in April?
It's looking that way, innit? But it gives you a bit of consolidated focus. If you win those 3 games plus a cup final, there's potentially a Paddy Lochran treble available.
What begins with P-T and ends with Rebel. Exactly. Paddy, a lot to get covered before that. Obviously, April's going to be a really defining time of the season. We face Ross County, of course, this weekend, but we're absolutely at the business end, aren't we? It's all, coming thick and fast, and every game is so crucial now.
Absolutely. And one of those ones where we're now kind of seeing the fruits of the labour for the full team this season, that we're actually coming into this month of April. And I think a lot of Celtic fans last night, when that draw was made, would be like, okay, give us them. Let's see where we are. We're at as a squad. It's been a slight testament to them in the way that they've kind of bounced back from the mauling we gave them, and what they're doing in Europe. But that's going to be what we're up against. That's going to be the hardest team that we've played this season domestically, and we know we can beat them, and that's just got to be at the front of our minds at every game we go in against them. We just need to know that we have the better of them. Even at Ibrox, I've said on this show a few times, like, people are thinking about going even just get a draw there. No, you go and get the win. Yeah, because it just lays down the marker for the remainder.
Yeah, I just think whether it's under Ange or any Celtic manager, Celtic don't do going for draws well. It's not something we're good at. Either just take a down or go and win the thing. And I think the way Ange sets up and the way we know he sets up now, he's going to be going for that. James, I seen a tweet yesterday before any of our game or the draw indeed, and it was a fella saying that he absolutely wants Rangers in the final because he wants them there to witness Ange's treble.
That was my thinking. I normally am very much give us them as soon as I can get them kind of thing, but a showpiece final to clinch a treble. And by the way, I'm trying to keep everyone's feet on the ground at the same time, including my own, but that would have been the occasion, talk about your dinner.
Yeah. Just for the viewers and the listeners and all that kind of stuff, before we came on air, James is saying, listen, I think we all need to kind of calm down a bit. Feet on the ground, guys. Everyone's getting a wee bit ahead of himself. 2 minutes in, banging the drum. He's got his back in Europe, Paddy. We're back going for the quadruple. So let's take a look, first of all, at last night against Dundee United. So obviously, banana skin written all over it. Then you see the lineup, no Jota, no Abada. But in reality, Paddy, it was actually pretty comfortable all round, wasn't it?
It was. A very just professional performance from us last night. We dealt with any threat that they kind of posed very, very quickly. There wasn't anything really that made me think we've got away with anything there. I'm hearing a few people kind of, saying that they were maybe just expecting a bit more from us, a bit more like zip to the game and everything. But given the circumstances, not played... we didn't play overall incredibly well. I just thought we kind of just dictated the game. We were very comfortable. Didn't come out of second gear. It was a good performance.
Yeah. Second gear, yeah.
Aye.
Ange talks a lot about controlling games, James, and that's what I felt it was, Paddy. We weren't at our free-flowing, brilliant best. But I don't think Joe Hart had a
zero shots on
to
target,
me. Couple of by kicks and a couple of passes out to Starfelt and Carter Vickers, but no work for the goalkeeper. It tells you all you need to know.
I was very happy with the performance. I mean, I thought Dundee United came out and made a good game of it. They were just lacking a bit of quality in the final third to alter the result. Tam Court said, after the game, that's where he felt they'd lacked, was the final third. It was a good game. They made a good cup tie of it, but he couldn't complain at all about the result. And that was as fair as a summation I would get on it.
Almost the same as what David Martindale said the week before.
Yeah.
A couple of decisions you can talk about, but overall Celtic very comfortable and very deserving of the win. That's us now unbeaten, Paddy, in 30 games domestically, going back to that Livy game way back when, I think sometime in September. It's an incredible achievement given where we were last year, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's just a testament to all of the players and what they've put in. to every single game, and we include all the players that were kind of kicking about at the beginning of the season as well, the young players that were put into very, very hard demanding matches from the get-go. So everyone's played their part. What we're seeing now is basically that we're obviously got more of a choice on our squad rotation, which is helping us massively. But that again all comes down to the foundation laid by the players as well.
Absolutely. James, in terms of the lineup at Tannadice, so as mentioned, no Jota, no Abada, but still quite an adventurous, quite an attacking lineup, and Maeda and Giakoumakis in particular, pairing up together. For Giakoumakis and his last 2 starts in Scottish football, so Dundee United and previously Dundee, 5 goals. Pretty solid return, isn't it?
Yeah, so he's now 9 one-touch goals.
Which I seen as well. A remarkable stat. So 9 goals for Celtic in total, 8 of them coming this year, 2022, and all of them one-touch finishes. He's a real penalty box type striker, isn't he?
Yeah, just as much as his physical attributes, it's his enthusiasm as well. He's chasing down. He's so much faster than he was when he first put a Celtic jersey on. He's lost that 8 kilos or whatever, and you see it. Regards Jota and Abada, sad not to see them on the bench, but the starting 11, you could almost have expected that with a Jota and Abada on the bench. So I wasn't too upset with the starting 11. Obviously, we didn't have the strength and depth, but there was a couple of wingers that came on and did bits and bobs between Johnson and Dembele. So it certainly wasn't disastrous as lineup, and it's one you could have expected with Ange rotating his wingers anyway.
Yeah, I mean, far from disaster, but I do think there were moments. So Maeda and Giakoumakis, they are real grafters. They put in an absolute shift, and you can never question their commitment and their attitude and their effort. Sometimes you can question their quality, I think. This isn't to bring a negative to what was a very comfy and a very important win. But now and then, Maeda breaks down the left. The cross isn't quite where you want it to be. One in the first half, it's landed in the top of the net, for example. Yeah. And even the one that's led to Giakoumakis' goal, it's actually a cross, and he done it recently. It's too close to the goalie, and the goalie should deal with it. Giakoumakis has shown predator instincts to tuck it away. But it's that difference in quality between Maeda and Giakoumakis versus Jota and Kyogo. I know, we don't have Kyogo to rely upon just now. Jota's back for the weekend by all accounts, which is great. But there is a real difference in quality there. Now, at the moment, I think, I don't want to say getting away with it, that's the wrong term. That makes it sound like we're scraping by. But at the moment, we're utilising the squad, to put it positively. We've got guys that step in when Kyogo's not available, when Jota's not available. And they're managing to go over the line, and it's just a different approach by Ange, but it's equally effective, and it's getting the results.
Absolutely. I kind of go back to like what you're saying regarding like the quality and stuff like that. Given last night, I could kind of give the players some of the benefit of the doubt. I thought the part was very stodgy, and it was bobbling. The ball was bobbling quite a bit on it. In terms of Maeda's ball in, I actually think it's a good cross in the sense that you look at
teasing.
It's teasing, but and Giakoumakis is shown. He loves that like front post run, that near post run. He's very, very good at it. And maybe I'm defending Maeda here in the sense that maybe it's a case of just a tiny wee bit of rustiness for Giakoumakis that he wasn't there. But my God, he still puts the run in to go and make sure that he's there for any mistake. And that's a good striker. That's a good instinct to have, And I mean, it's a tap in. It's a very easy goal for him to score, but he's there. And that's the main thing.
He's there, and he's always
there.
He's always there.
He is looking sharp, though. That's something that, in the kind of cameos he made before the turn of the year, James, he just wouldn't have had that kind of sharpness about him. He looked a bit off it, and the confidence, wasn't there. There was chat last night. I've watched the highlights after I got back in, and there was chat about, as a striker, goals are his oxygen. And he's clearly getting them now. As I said, 5 goals in his last couple of starts, 8 this year. He's looking hungry, he's looking energetic, and he's looking confident as well.
That's a big thing, the confidence, positive circle, the goals feed the confidence feeds more goals, and we're seeing that. So, we've been without Kyogo since December, for the cup final.
Boxing Day.
He played one day, but he was pushing it then. So you're looking at kind of coming on 3 months without him, and we've done so well, and that's largely because of the squad, but the man capitalising on that is Giakoumakis. So imagine without him,
Imagine Yeti was the only option, Paddy. Wow,
he wouldn't be.
Yeah, we wouldn't fancy that. I want to look at another guy last night, Rio Hatate. So he was rested completely against Livingston, and I think not before time. I think he was looking tired. there's kind of mixed responses to his performance last night. I thought generally he was looking a lot sharper.
Yeah.
There was some really good stuff that he got involved in. Linking up play well and just looking a wee bit more like the Rio Hatate who came in initially in January. How do you think he fared, Paddy?
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I thought he played very well. I think that it is a case of just like managing his game time for obviously the important ones coming up. I think he's a big player for us. He's technically very, very good, but sometimes I just think it's maybe just a naivety of him. He's just maybe trying too hard. And you kind of see with the tackle he came in with last night, I think it's a red card. I actually think, he definitely got away with one there, but I just think that's maybe just a wee bit of over-eagerness. I don't think there's aggression in it.
Like Lucy would call it an orange card,
Aye.
That's when that comes in,
That's interesting, Paddy. So
Plenty of aim about with that guy in charge last night.
So you and I were there last night. I don't know where you were seated, standing, but I couldn't see over you see the way the stand is there. So we were in the Jerry Kerr stand and you can't quite see the touchline below you. I don't know if that was the same with yourself. So I couldn't see the tackle. So he was getting all the benefits of all the doubts with me. I was saying, never a red, even though I didn't really see it.
Aye.
I have seen it back. I have seen the replay. I absolutely agree. It certainly could, in the category of could be a red, isn't it? He's going, he's not quite out of control, but he's going in at pace with the studs up. And if he gets the red there,
It's a different.
you kind of need to accept it.
Yeah, and it's a harder game then for sure. I think he's slightly pulling out of it. I certainly couldn't complain if it was a red. If it was against us, I'd be asking for the red. It's all that kind of stuff. There's no real contact, but the Porteous thing blows that away because you don't need to touch a guy to get sent off and all that kind of stuff. So
It's the aggression of it. But you're right, I definitely agree with you. I definitely think he's held back and he's come up and made that claim straight away. I've not fully committed to it, but it's the action,
despite the guy, rolling over
aye.
a dozen times, which I suppose is his job at that point,
Yeah, I mean, it's typical John Beaton favouring Celtic, Paddy.
Same old John Beaton.
There's another one.
As they always say, these things kind of even themselves out over the course of the season. You may
Dairy.
remember Callum Butcher.
Yeah.
It was the last time
on
at Tannadice. Aye.
Can you imagine John Beaton seeing that back this morning going,
Aye.
lads, have I missed that?
Lads, I've
You
missed
would have
that
seen
one.
it last night in the
I've had
group
that
text, mate. Don't worry. What's going on, John?
It was a real opportunity if he was looking to send somebody off. So I think we've potentially got away with one. One we've not got away with, though, I suppose, looking at refereeing, is the goal, inverted commas, that Maeda scored. So, Paddy, this is obviously a change in the ruling when it comes to handball and a new interpretation of it. But basically, the ruling suggests that if it accidentally hits a player, in an attacking sense and leads to a goal, the goal should stand.
Yeah.
It's a complete accident by Giacomakis. Made a bit of an arse, to be honest with you. It spun off him and Maeda's shown sharpness to come in at the back post. We know these rules now. We talk about them and they get highlighted on TV and online. The referees get trained in these rules at the start of the season. So from a fan point of view, we kind of catch some changes and different things, and some are aware, some aren't. It's their job to know the rules. They get taught the rules, yet he's missed that one.
So I wonder if it's just like habitual instinct, which doesn't help us. I wonder if it's habitual instinct, but then that's where your assistants come in and should be able to say, come on, no, the rules are, that's accidental, goal should be given. It's also another reason you get something like VAR, but I mean, is it not beat on its head in VAR, apparently?
Cannot be, because the point would be, if you're trained in that and that happens and you miss that, there has to be consequences.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like sacking guys and stuff, whether it's beating or anyone. It's retraining, it's demotion, it's coming back up the ranks. It's not just, there you go, we're going to promote you to... He's not head of VAR. Don't tell me.
He was a poster boy in the recent promotional stuff about it.
So just Hugh, hand on shoulder behind them.
You've
going,
got your heart there, by the way. Not him.
Jeez,
it's a funny one. I mean, to give him a wee bit of benefit of the doubt, Paddy, you're right. Because these kind of rules, these handball rules and these offside rules are changing, time after time. If he's been a referee for X years and that's always the way handball's gone, instinct leads you to go, all right, that's a handball. Yeah. But you're right, his fourth official or assistant referees, they should be flagging up. They're on the headpieces and say, actually, John, mind that rule change, mate.
Quite a big one, by the way.
And they should give him the nod.
Yeah, of course.
See, just another point is it's away from Celtic very quickly. Did you see the own goal that Harry Maguire scored? Yeah. Was it the weekend against Spurs?
Aye.
The ball gets played into the box to a Spurs striker who's found himself offside. Yeah. Harry Maguire, unaware at the time, stretches out a leg to try and prevent it getting to the guy in the first place, spins off Maguire and goes in. The rule is it's a goal, and not an offside decision because the guy ultimately didn't touch it, but Maguire's only stretching
To
because he
prevent him.
thinks the
I
guy's
know.
The guy's active.
That can't be a fair rule.
Yeah.
That can't be.
Yeah, I
Maguire
don't like
only
that.
throws his body at it because he feels this guy's going to tap it in, but that guy's offside. It's just not right. And I wonder if you're in a situation now with football rules. Again, it feels to me, just as a football guy, that you've got non-football people making these decisions. A lot of it just doesn't make sense.
That's
and
a big problem.
You know, it's leaving you with some questionable stuff going on.
Even that one from Steve McLean on Saturday saying it was a pass back. I mean, that's somebody that's never played football.
What was
because it
that?
was horrendous.
A 40-yard sliced pass back.
Aye.
Wild.
If Cammy Kerr could do that deliberately, it'd be
Playing for somebody else.
playing at a different level for Dundee. So yeah, listen, let's not make this about referees, and you know, there's much more to talk about, but there's some dubious stuff going on. But I do think going back to Hatate's red could possibly have been, so maybe we've got away with that. Ange was careful with him. He replaced him at the break with Rogic coming in. Mixed performance for Rogic.
Just loving the double 10 Ange, isn't he? I'm going to make it happen, but you like it.
I know, really is, isn't he?
He's going
And
for that.
And that's the period where Dundee United were strongest for me. That kind of 15-minute period after the break, because nothing was sticking midfield. Their possession was really sloppy. It was just kind of bouncing back and forward. Their final third wasn't punishing us. But the double 10, Rogic was quiet. I thought O'Reilly was quiet as well, actually.
Yeah.
You know?
Overall, I thought he actually came into it latterly in the first half.
Who, sorry?
O'Reilly.
O'Reilly.
In that inside right position.
Yeah.
And then Ange changes it and moves him to the left and Rogic to the right.
I think he's more suited to the right.
So there.
But he'll give Rogic the benefit of the doubt and put him there and move him over. And I don't think he's as comfortable out on the left. Some of the games we've seen, especially the Bodo Glimt games, he just doesn't. I don't think he links up as well. He's not getting that same bomb and run from Taylor as what you would get from Ralston or Juranovic.
Yeah.
Juranovic, by the way,
Aye.
solid game again.
Class.
Very good game.
That debate's up again.
It is. This week it's Tuesday.
Just
great
be
debate.
happy you've got them both.
A great debate, I know.
Yeah. Before we move on from Dundee United, I also want to cover Karamoko Dembele. So he gets more minutes in the tank. I think he came on in the 76th minute for Maeda. Showed some good feet at times, involved in the third goal, albeit I'm not sure he made the right decision by shooting in the first place, but he certainly played his part. A naughty wee dive in the box at one point, Paddy.
Aye.
So he did get contact. You get more contact than Tavernier did the day before, you know, in the Sunday game. So some penalties are penalties, some aren't.
Aye. I thought it was a dive. I've got to be honest, he was quite close to us. And
It's
I
only
thought,
wee.
I know, different rules for him. But overall, Paddy, I have a question for you, I suppose. Is he in the team at the moment on merit, or is this the club trying to get him back on side as he, at the moment, approaches the end of his deal?
I'd say it would be on merit. I think he's made it clear, and I know it's something we'll touch on today about the Ben Doak situation, but what he said about Ben Doak is that he wants to work with players that want to be there. So I don't think Dembele's a part of the squad if he doesn't want to be there. I think there's it goes both ways. Celtic need to show him that there's an opportunity, and he needs to show that he wants to stay there. I think, and that, you know, if he gets a bit of game time, especially getting into the run-in, keeping things fresh out in the wings as well, which we've not had the luxury of in a couple of seasons, to be honest. With wingers, there's always been injuries here or there. Yeah, absolutely. We talked to him at probably the end of the season, though. I think we talk to him then and see what's what.
Yeah, and I'm sure there'll be chats going on in the background, James. You know, that's just the way it works, whether it's with him directly or his agent, just to see what are you thinking. Because as you're right, Paddy, we'll get to Ben Doak. It's clear Ben Doak has indicated he won't be here, and he finds himself right out the picture. With Dembele, it seems a bit different. He's obviously had his injury woes this season. He's come back in recently. A couple of really good goals for the B team during the week. I think, was it against Thistle, Glasgow Cup?
Just some great football, great feet.
Quality stuff. And if he can manage to take that form into the senior side, then there's a serious player, you know, on our hands.
Yeah, and I think it is both. I think it is, he's there on merit, and they're keeping an eye on the contract situation to say, there's your path. You know, so there's a place for you here. Don't do anything too rash. I've been looking forward to seeing him breaking through the first team. In the summer, I was so disappointed. I watched that friendly game, and it was such a coward's challenge. The guy that broke his ankle, was that a kind of fractured ankle, sorry. So to see him coming back from that, and he went into a couple of heavy challenges, which is good, you know, because players can come back after injuries and then be a bit more, you know, reserved. Even James, I thought James was poor last night after having two good games, and he was feeling his hamstring a wee bit at one point without going off, but then was just a bit more reserved because it's a natural instinct from players. So it was good to see Dembele not falling into that instinct of protecting himself. He went into the challenges full-blooded and stuff. So I hope we can see more of him, yeah.
Same.
I think he's a young man that fans have been so excited about for so long. I think he was he 14 when he made his debut for the 18, something like that. You know, he's been on the radar for such a long time. He's now 19, and we've not seen a great deal of him at all. You know, he had that spell at the end of the season under Lenny where he played the last league game and then he was in the cup final squad for the treble. I need to work out my trebles, Paddy. You lose track of them. But I think, you know, he's such an exciting talent, but it remains to be seen now. He's at a crossroads career-wise, and does he become a journeyman? Does he go down south and try and maybe play in the Championship and work his way through? Or does he kind of get the head down, focus, maybe sign up, you know, a short-ish deal, couple of years at Celtic, and we can all see where we go with him.
Well, the huge thing is just kind of what you said there. He is still only 19. You'd like to think that he looks at it's been a lot of injuries at such a young age, but Celtic have kind of been there for him throughout it all, and made sure that, you know, he's been given every opportunity to each time he's came back. There is a lot invested in him. Yeah. And I think that it would be really nice to see him kind of repay that faith, and, you know, maybe a 2-year contract, something along the lines. Let's see how it goes in the next 2 years. If it doesn't work out, he's still only going to be 21, 22. Yeah. Go and try somewhere else. That's fine.
Yeah. And as a fan, you just want to see someone live out their potential and see out their potential, and hopefully that'll be the case with Karamoko. But overall, good night at Tannadice. So 3-0 victory, and Celtic march into the semi-finals. James, I've no birthday shout-outs this week. Don't know if you heard me last week doing my
very kind
Tiger Tim radio DJ. But before we move on to our next session, I do want to remind listeners that there's now just a couple of days left to win our signed and framed treble shirt, complete with Scottish Premiership winners medal. If you're listening on Friday or later, then you're all out of luck, I'm afraid. But if not, the competition runs to Thursday of this week, Thursday 17th, Paddy's Day, no less. So you've still got a wee window to get your entries in. It's a brilliant prize. You can see the images and video of the shirt across our social media pages. And for just £5, it could be heading your way at some point in the next week or so. Paddy, you could hand deliver that, actually.
That's fine. Aye.
Special prize. So that's something for somebody to look forward to.
God help them.
You'll find the link to enter this competition in our show notes here, and again, good luck to everyone taking part. So James, as I'd mentioned, obviously we all now know the draws paired us with Rangers in the semi-final. Was it Victor McDade making the draw last night?
Was that?
I've not seen it, but I've read about it. How's he looking? How's he doing?
Happy man. I don't know if is a Celtic fan.
Yeah, I think so.
Certainly, he was up at Tannadice for the game, so.
Jack Jarvis is certainly a Celtic fan, but I'm not sure about Victor McDade. But yeah, so he made the draw last night. So pairing is obviously with Rangers. It looks likely that will take place on the Sunday, which would be the 17th of April. An interesting point actually is if Rangers do manage to progress beyond Red Star Belgrade, which looks likely, they would then be playing a quarter-final second leg the Thursday night before playing us on the Sunday. There's no doubt, Paddy, as I said last week, you know, we want to be in Europe. We're not. We've fallen short on this occasion, but there is a huge silver lining that Rangers squad will be stretched, and they'll need to put out, you know, a strong team in that fixture on the Thursday when we'll have the luxury of resting our guys.
Absolutely, and I'm pretty sure the way it's kind of fallen, they would be away from home in the second leg as well. So I think they would be first leg again at home, and then they'd be travelling back to come and play us on the Sunday. So yeah, these are small things that go in our favour. I don't really like looking too much into it. I think that kind of game against us, the adrenaline would probably see you through, no matter what team. But if it's one of those ones that goes a full 90, like, dare I say, it goes all the way to extra time, then that's the advantage side to us there, but it shouldn't be the case. I still think I'm confident enough against them that we go and blow them away.
Yeah, and I think you're right to be. James, based on that draw, it means that April is now looking something along the lines of Sunday 3rd of April, Rangers away, Scottish Premiership. Saturday 10th of April, we're at home to St Johnstone in the league. Then it would be Sunday 17th, Rangers at Hampden in the Scottish Cup. And likely to face them either the following week or the week after. So we know how the split works. Yeah. The Police Scotland and others involved won't allow us to play Rangers in the final game of the season or the penultimate game, based on the madness that would create. So it's likely we'll face them either Saturday 23rd or Saturday 30th, depending on the way the draw is made. It's going to be a crazy few weeks, isn't it?
It is, but as we said at the top of the show, it just gives you that real focus. Once we get the split sorted out and who's there and all that stuff, we can see all the fixtures and whatever, but even without knowing that, just knowing those three games, Rangers at the start of the month and the end of the month in the league, and Sammy's in between the cup final. 3 for 3 for me. There's no reason we should be going into any of those games with any doubts whatsoever. I think we're really starting to pick up More than just form, real confidence and style in our performance as well. So if they keep that going on Sunday and then take, obviously a national break, but then take that to Rangers at the start of the month.
Yeah, you mentioned cup final. I think you meant semi-final.
Semi-final.
Again, you're getting ahead of yourself despite your own calming words at the start of the show. Paddy, this was meant to be a season of transition. For many, just competing this year would have been enough. Myth has spoken, and we've all spoken actually. Just getting closer and keeping the season alive and all this kind of chat. We're way beyond that now, aren't we?
Absolutely, and I think the one that was confident about us definitely going and challenging for the league was your man here, Jamie. And I think it's those that can kind of like look at how nervous last season made us and kind of think about like what we witnessed. It was really tough. It was really hard to see how we were going to come out this season and try and compete at such a good level, in my opinion. And I even take into consideration, I'm going back to Europe here as well, some great performances in the group stages of the Europa League with a team that was still nowhere near ready. We ran Betis close over there. We got the win against them, albeit a bit of a dead rubber. But even the game against Leverkusen over there as well, it was just a good performance.
Yeah.
And that's just the confidence that we're going into each game feeling that we can take on anyone at the moment. Domestically, 30 games unbeaten. To say that we're at that point under a full transition of a team is very, very impressive. And yeah, I'm still on the board of like one game at a time just now. I kind of like that for this season. I'm quite happy with that. But my God, if we go, especially if we win the treble, but if we win the league this season, to be able to just have a full summer of him getting his way, him getting time to basically bring in his players. Like I said, I've said many a time, a full pre-season for us would just be, it'd be incredible. I think we'll run away with the league next season.
Yeah,
if we get that.
I mean, I think, as you mentioned there, Paddy, the one game at a time approach, I'm pretty sure that'll be as far ahead as Ange and the players look. Obviously they know the bigger picture, they know the targets they've set for the season. But as we find ourselves now, post Tannadice, it's just another box checked. You've just won another game and you move on. Next up it's Ross County. Hopefully we'll do the same and then we'll look beyond the international break. And they're just taking care of business domestically. They're just ploughing through these games, unbeaten in 30 games, very strong start to 2022 domestically. Bodo being the kind of blip on the radar, if you like. Yeah. And I know we joke, James, about, the treble stuff and, getting ahead of ourselves and all that kind of thing, but it'd be remiss of us not to be looking at it now. Certainly we as fans are entitled to get excited that we're potentially 10 games away from a treble. And there's no doubt, despite what Joe Hart will tell you and what others are telling you, it's somewhere in their heads. And maybe they won't speak about it at Lennoxtown in case Ange catches them speaking about it. But when they're out and about, they'll be blethering.
Jackie Marcus last night's post-match was very one game at a time. She's been spoken to.
Aye.
So, and all I would say is absolutely we should be thinking about these things because that's what football is. It's about dreaming big and all that stuff in a season where you wouldn't maybe expect too much. If the top two places were reversed and we were in second place just now, I wouldn't think I was in a terrible position for winning the league. That's all I would say. So as much as I'm saying we go win these 3 games in April against them, they could be thinking the same. I don't think they've got it, both in terms of ability against us, but football's football and it can change. If that goes the other way, then it's a really hard slog to get back on top again. So that's where my feet are on the ground, genuinely, as much as, head in the clouds, feet in the ground, that stuff.
That old saying. You're absolutely right. It's on a knife edge, and from a Scottish football point of view, if I can put my neutral hat on for a second, Paddy, it's exciting. It's exciting for fans and pundits and for the TV audiences and all that kind of stuff. But from a Celtic point of view, we're in such a position we couldn't have imagined. I was going to say 12 months ago. Even more recently. When you're losing those early games in the season, you're losing to Hearts in the opening game, you're thinking this is going to be one of those years for us. And we're so far away from that. I mean, just in terms of how we're performing defensively, we're conceding very few goals, right? So it's 18 league goals conceded in 30 games. We've only conceded 1 so far in our Scottish Cup run, so that's to Alloa, no less. I think was it Connor Salmon, wasn't it?
Aye.
So we beat them 2-1, beat Wraith Rovers 4-0, and now we beat Dundee United 3-0. So you're scoring 9 goals into the bargain. But the bottom line is, if you don't concede goals, you're not going to lose games. So long may that pattern continue, and it's got to put us in a good position in the running.
Absolutely. I just think at the moment the back line is so settled just now, and we're able to to shift the two right backs in whatever system we're playing. They're all comfortable with it. And I include Greg Taylor in that as well. He's comfortable in that position, and I'm happy enough with him for the rest of the season. I still think he definitely we're looking at a stronger left back for next year for us to progress. And like I say, instead of us having this tight gap with what we've got with Rangers at the moment, I'd like to see us become that team that maybe go and start taking the 10-point, the 15-point leads that we've done, because I still think that the gulf is still that big, in my opinion. We've just had to play catch up because of our board not seeing what was happening. I still think that there's room for improvement in Europe, and definitely the squad definitely needs strengthened for us to try and progress in that manner. But to be in this position just now is just it's great. It's great to see, and it is exciting. It's very exciting. You're watching every game. You're listening out for every result. You're actually now starting to pay attention to the rest of the games that are getting played. I'm watching Sportscene quite a bit, just in the sense of like who's going to be in the top six.
So tight.
Aye, it's so tight. It's been a really good league. I actually seen I think Tam McManus the other day, and I don't mind some of Tam McManus's stuff on Twitter, but he slated the Scottish game and the level of performances for this full season, and it's just that negativity that this league doesn't need. You know, there's a reason why we're struggling so much with the money coming into it, that you need everyone just singing its praises. We've got a relegation battle which is looking very tight. We've got all these teams that could either end up going for Europe or that they end up sitting in the bottom six, which again is another reason I think the split should be we should get rid of that. But it's very exciting this season. We were talking about it last week. Hearts are the only ones just like, what do we do?
Floating about.
Aye.
Oh, the cup run now, so.
Yeah. Aye. But don't really give them that though.
Just on that, just while I remember, you'll have seen the stat, and I need to verify how true it is, but apparently this is the first time ever that Hearts, Hibs, Celtic, Rangers have been in the final four of the Scottish Cup.
Aye.
Yeah.
In over 100 years of Scottish Cup history.
Has happened in League Cup not even that long ago, I think, but not Scottish Cup.
Yeah.
So it's the top four in the league as well.
Aye, it's hard to get your head around that. Anyway, less about Scottish football and all that nonsense. Let's get back to Celtic stuff. I want to look at the situation, Paddy. You mentioned Ben Doak. So after lots of speculation, we've seen it all over the last few weeks. There was an article this week in The Athletic suggesting that he's about to sign his first professional contract, but with Liverpool and not with Celtic. And I think it's such a disappointment. Similar to Karamoko, Dembele, I think a lot of energy is going into young guys like Ben Doak. And it's so disappointing to see these guys leave. So he's not the first to do it. So fairly recently we've seen lads like Liam Morrison and Barry Hepburn. They went to Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
There's a young goalkeeper, Liam Hughes, who went to Liverpool. I suppose on paper, why would young guys do that? And he's a Celtic fan and all that stuff. Money's a huge aspect. There's no getting away from it. And they'll be offering him far more, than we would or could offer at this moment in time. However, beyond the money side of things, it's a huge opportunity to go to Liverpool. Whether he gets to work with Klopp may have moved on by the time Doak would potentially make first team. But they've got a seriously impressive training complex down there. A place, the AXA training centre in Kirkby, really, really impressive stuff.
The original academy, by the way, as well.
Right.
Their view on their training ground was basically copied by pretty much every English team as well. So they know what they're doing. And
they've got a track record for bringing through, young guys. It's what they do. So he can see a pathway. And I think this is the thing. So James, you mentioned before we come on here about pre-Ange, we've lost, Liam Morrison, Barry Hepburn, Liam Hughes. They're all pre-Ange. There is a suggestion now that Ange is in that he's created this pathway or made a pathway clear to players. So the young goalie, Toby Oluwayemi, I think is how you pronounce his name.
Good effort, yep.
Thanks, Paddy. I'll take it. There's a suggestion that they've said, this is how excuse me, this is how your career is going to play out, or this is our plans for you. You'll be understudy at this moment in time, then moving forward, if you make the progress required, you'll at some point challenge a Joe Hart for first team. He seems happy with that. He seems keen to stay around. I think he was on the bench last night. He's certainly, around the first team. For Ben Doak, it's maybe not been enough and his head's turned. And it's disappointing, there's no doubt about it. But James, what can Celtic do, if anything, about that kind of situation?
There's two sides to the coin, I suppose, and the two players you've just mentioned there are the case in point. Oluwayemi we got from Spurs in the exact same route that Ben Doak may or may not go to Liverpool in terms of first pro and all that kind of stuff. So we've had benefits of this. Dembele was one, the Fulham route, and we're seeing the negative side if Doak goes. What we can do is what Ange is doing. He's giving them that. Here's where you are. Here's where you'll be next season. here's what we be the season after that, and that's first team football, and that's your run. Here's the things you need to hit to get to that. So it's much clearer. He spoke about it maybe about 2-3 months ago, that he felt there was a huge disconnect between youth and first team, and it looks like already he's bridged that gap. So we won't see the full fruits of that labour for, a year maybe, but you'll start to see players dropping in through that. So I don't think it's actually an issue today. I think it's like Paddy said, the board have had their eye off the ball for so long, and that's been one of the things they did their eye off the ball on. So as long as we stay tight on that, as long as we've got the personnel involved and employed at the club to take care of that, it will be fine. But it's a legacy problem, not a today problem.
Yeah, it's just a shame to lose such a clearly an exciting talent in Ben Doak. So I mean, he featured. He came off the bench in that Dundee United game where Abada scored the late winner, then come on against Rangers, and he looked the opposite of starstruck and phased and all that really kind of stuff. Very comfortable in that environment. So he's only played something like 25 minutes for Celtic. 1 yellow card, Paddy. No goals, no assists. Questionable. We should be getting rid of him actually, shouldn't we?
Rubbish.
But from his point of view, you can see why his head been turned. I believe he is a Celtic fan and a good lad, and they're very excited about him, or have been in the academy. But you can see why when a club like Liverpool come calling and everything they can offer, not just the financial package, it's hard for a kid to turn that down.
Well, I think one of the boys made a very good point. If you go to a club like Liverpool and you don't make it, your downward spiral isn't that bad. If you're going to be there, you're probably looking at probably looking at a Premier League team, and there might be loan spells, but it would be the same at Celtic in my opinion. Doak is like 16. It's a very, very young age to say that, we're going to bed this player in and he's going to be part of the lineup. He'd still be on a small wage. He would probably feature very, very minimal amount of games each season up until maybe 19, 20. And the reason I say that is that we have seen that over the years with us and youth players. And this is one of the issues I think Celtic have hugely with the youth setup. Yes, we've seen the likes of McGregor, we've seen Tierney, we've seen the likes of Welsh kind of starting to knock the door and stuff like that. And it's great to see, it really is. But we don't do enough of that. And there's a reason for us not doing enough of that. Is that we don't take enough of a risk. We are so worried about making sure that the league's sorted and making sure that we get into European football. It's too much of a risk for us to take. And we need to do it more, absolutely, but it just came at the wrong time for Ben Doak. And like you say, I think what Ange will potentially do is we maybe start to see that gap starting to get bridged. Kind of the way we've seen it with Neil to an extent. Neil started to bring some of the young players through and we were really, really happy with obviously what we were doing on it and like an academy side of things, that we ended up putting all this money into Lennoxtown, and we're actually not seeing much from Lennoxtown, albeit yes, there's some good starting 11 players that have went through from a youth team, but there could be a lot more is what I'm saying.
I mean, you mentioned managers not taking a risk, right? So Brendan Rodgers didn't give many young guys a chance. Obviously Tierney was already progressing by the time Rodgers arrived. Lennon certainly wasn't the kind of manager to do that. And Ange has kind of bucked that trend, maybe through necessity. It's hard to say. But you're right, Paddy, there's so much pressure. So when you're going for a league, can you afford to experiment with a young guy who may or may not be good enough? But the interesting thing about somebody like Ben Doak, so the article, for this was all revealed in The Athletic this week. They interviewed Martin Muller, who was a former academy coach at Celtic, and he spoke about Jack Aitchison. Still, I think Celtic's record, our youngest ever goal scorer at 16 years of age, come off the bench, scored the 7th in a 7-0 win over Motherwell. Yeah. You could bring one of us on when you're winning 6-0 v Motherwell, and it's not going to be a big risk, right? There's no great stress there. A 6 each thriller, aye. We'll throw James on for the draw. We're winning 6-0, but we'll put him on for the draw. So, it's worked out fine for Jack Aitchison, low risk approach. Ben Doak came on at nothing each against Dundee United in a game where we had to win. Yeah. Serious pressure, serious tension in the stands. He just came on, done his thing, got right wing, got at a few guys, played his part, we win the game. Brilliant stuff. Then he comes on against Rangers in a game we have to win. So you're right, Paddy, Celtic have traditionally been very careful about it and low risk, and maybe throw a guy into a League Cup game or whatever. Marvin Comper, did he play a League Cup game against Morton or something?
He played one game.
Not that he's a youth, just a separate example of somebody who was absolutely murder. Aye. Anyway, but there was serious risk. And I mean, that could have gone one or two ways for Ben Doak. We could have lost those games. He could have been part of a team who were getting pressure from the stands. Ange could have got called out for taking that risk. But it's clear that he's willing and happy to do so. And I think you're going to see a lot more of it moving forward, because he's already shown that he'll put, Dane Murray in, Owen Moffat in, Joey Dawson, and there's now a whole raft of talent who you feel could step up. But historically, that's not been the case. You've had James Forrest, you've had Kieran Tierney, you've had Callum McGregor, and not much else.
Yeah.
And now you're starting to see something along the lines of a conveyor belt of young talent.
But personally, I think that was down to necessity, though. I don't think Ange has come in and said, right, I'm wanting to work with the youth straight away. I know he's saying that that's something for the future, absolutely. But look at how bare the squad was, and then even the games that Doak's come in. It's a shortage of wingers that were fully fit, you know, and if Dembele's on the bench, Dembele's in that game. Johnston was fully fit. Johnston's in that game. Forrest fully fit. He would be the one on, is kind of what I'm saying. I think Doak was just used out of necessity for those games. But
sorry to interrupt. I think there was a bit of a kind of love letter to Doak on that to say, look, we think you're slipping away. Here's a path for you. I think the last shot at him, and it's not worked out.
No, it's absolutely not. And I agree with that. I think it has been a case of like, let's see, this is what you could be part of. And listen, I've seen people on Twitter saying he's not a true Celtic fan. Come on, get with the times, guys. Like
adults shouting at 16-year-old boys.
These guys are looking after their lives. Like you could go and end up with a bad injury next season and then not able to play football again. They're going to look after themselves and their families. We've got to remember that.
Yeah,
they're still Celtic fans.
I've no doubt.
Tino a Celtic fan?
Exactly.
Yeah, the young guy's looking out for his career. If he moves on, he definitely moves on with my best wishes. And I think your lads sound the same. And good luck to him. It's just, you want to see more Ben Doaks. And as you say, James, maybe this is a historical problem at Celtic that we're maybe now addressing, under the leadership of somebody like Ange. And hopefully, we start to see more young homegrown talent, come through the programme at Celtic Park. Moving forward, or looking forward, so we're back in league action this weekend. It's Ross County and a 3 o'clock kick-off on Saturday. Remember them, Paddy? 3 o'clock on a Saturday. An informed Ross County, so you lads spoke about the league and how tight it is. Mm-hmm. There's something like, is it a couple of points between 4th and 10th or something like that? I should have checked that, really. So Ross County have now incredibly found themselves 6th in the table. They're a point off 4th. I think they're 36 points. Hibs are 4th and 37. At one point, not so long ago, you were talking about them as relegation fodder / candidates. You were thinking they were in serious trouble. And now they could be a step away for qualifying for Europe. So it's not going to be easy, is it?
No, it depends what Malcolm Mackay brings them to set up as. I mean, a draw is a great result for them, probably at that point, but they probably need to win more than the draw. A draw maybe is just about the same to them as a loss. 1 point lets maybe Hibs stretch away from them, or whoever else is who's in 5th. Sorry to put you right on the spot.
Don't worry, James, talk amongst yourselves. I will get you that league table.
But you see what I mean? So
is it United?
It's
Livingston.
But you see what I mean? A point to them at that point is quite dangerous. Mm-hmm. They really should be going for the 3 points. If they are, that should definitely favour us. So it remains to be seen what Malcolm Mackay goes to settle for. Is it going for the nothing each last minute sneak a goal, 2 banks of 5 stuff?
Possibly. So they lost 3-0 at Celtic Park early in the season, around about September, and then we had the Tony Ralston night of all nights in December with the win on the 214th minute to make it 2-1 then. So it's obviously been a couple of interesting and very different games against them. They'll be more confident, than they were. They've won their last 3 games on the bounce.
Charles Cook's still top scorer.
Regan Charles Cook's top scorer in the league. He's got 13 goals. So they should be coming here with a bit of confidence.
I think I don't see them going all out attack against us. No, I think they will probably try and just go for the point. They're not stupid. They know who they're up against. Having said that, the game up at Ross County, I thought they matched us very well. They matched us very well and put a lot of pressure in over the top of our back line. So a very big game for that back four. I think they'll be wanting to kind of make amends because it wasn't the greatest performance. I actually think Starfelt got caught up in quite a bit of the occasion the last time we played them. So yeah, it's a test for them. But I want to, obviously, I'm so comfortable and so happy with how the back line are playing that you wanted to see them continue to kick on, and they're a fast team. They're a fast team in the final third, so that'd be a good game, I think.
I mean, obviously Starfelt got sent off last time, didn't he?
Aye.
Who was it? Elbowed my mate, Carl. Who was it again?
Ross County player.
I can't remember, but he got caught up in some stuff and he took an elbow. Was it Jordan White? Am I catching that right? Was it him?
Aye, the big striker.
I think so. Anyway, so he'll have a point to prove. He'll be kind of keen, and I think
that's not his game though.
It's not.
He shouldn't get involved in those tussles.
I think he also kind of get the run around a wee bit as well. Just again, not a lot of huge protection. I'm pretty sure it was Taylor again that night, and I think he was getting left too open, to be honest. So yeah, tighten that up for this game.
We're still in a position where I think we've only conceded 4 league goals at Celtic Park. 2 of them were against Dundee very recently, and up until then, not a lot of goals conceded at all. Just on Carol Starfelt, let's look back to Tannadice very briefly. How do you think he done?
That was great, yeah.
Overall?
A couple of clumsy bits, a couple of bits where he just seems to get maybe caught in a tussle. He doesn't like that at all. And like you say, maybe he's not getting protection. I think a lot of this stuff comes with Starfelt when he's not getting options, people aren't showing for him, and he's the guy that's left holding the bag there, and it's really unfair.
I think that's really valid. I think that's a really fair point. He gets some horrendous passes played to him, whether it's from Joe Hart or some of his teammates. I think he's actually been quite brave as a player because he puts himself in a position to receive and others don't. So he puts himself in that really awkward, almost left back position at times to allow Joe Hart an option. And then nobody does the same for him.
Taylor's gone forward.
Whether it's Taylor or a midfielder, and I'm not saying guys are hiding, but they're not maybe being as brave or putting themselves forward in the same way he does. And it makes him look foolish because ultimately it might be him who concedes possession or puts out for a corner or whatever it may be.
Well, sorry.
That's okay. I do think he's a better defender than he is a footballer, if I'm just being frank on it. But I do think he's put into some tough positions by his teammates.
I think his anticipation is very good, and he reads the game extremely well. Just like you guys were saying, they're getting into the right positions to receive the ball, but also on the defensive side, I just think he's very quick off the mark to kind of see the threat, and him and Carter Vickers do it very well. They know that, like, if one of them's coming up against a tall striker, or like the ball's getting lumped into the box at a corner, they know just to be able to read where to be behind the second ball, and they do it extremely well when the balls are trying to get played over the top with some teams. One of the things I clocked last night was actually, it's good to see that wee bit of aggression kind of getting shown, but you seen the pass, he just totally missed the ball completely. It ran under him. I think it was a fast pass to him, but it had bobbled quite a bit. And again, it was one of those ones though, he was looking in at his position to who he had around him, and Taylor was way up on the halfway line. I actually clocked Callum McGregor go through Taylor for it, like screaming at him, and Taylor's actually putting his hands up as if, like, what am I meant to do? He's not even past the ball. But it's that security. They like being close to each other to allow them to, like, bring the ball out for the back, and Taylor was nowhere to be seen.
That's a really interesting point that McGregor's pulled Taylor on, and it's
lacking discipline.
It's something I never clocked. I heard Ange speaking in one of his many interviews. He's round the clock on telly these days, but one of his interviews last week, potentially with the Australian media, and he was talking about his players being comfortable in training, and if they're comfortable and used to what he's doing it wrong. He doesn't want his guys being comfortable in training, and he says if you're in training not making mistakes, you're not doing it right. You need to be pushing yourself and trying things and doing the difficult things and making those mistakes and then learning how to do them better. And I think that'll be where maybe that message from McGregor to Taylor comes from. It's like, this is where you need to be when he receives the ball. Yes, granted, Starfelt's made a mess of it on that occasion and not connected, but maybe through lack of options and
knowing he's not there.
He's looking up and saying, he's got more to think about than he should have.
The boy right in his face, aye.
And it's maybe easy and lazy to say Starfelt again, Starfelt's the problem. Maybe there's guys around that aren't being as brave as Starfelt, and maybe that's just an alternative way to look at it, because for this system to work, it can't rely on 2, 3, 4 guys doing it. You need all 10 outfield players being switched on to how Ange plays. So, there's a bit of a defence for Starfelt there. Back to the Ross County game. So, Starfelt and all, James, how do you think it's going to go? I'm looking for a scoreline prediction for that one.
3-0. Yeah, I think we'll be tight at the back. And, as much we're talking about the back line there, I think this is a game where the midfield forward is going to be on fire. They've been coming together really well the last few weeks, last couple of games, and this is now back at Parkhead. So 3-0, 3 good goals and nice and tight at the back.
Business at the back, party up front, James says. 3-0. What are you going for, Paddy?
Going to go with the same. 3-0, yeah.
Woofed. I do think it'll be comfy. I'm going for 2-0. I think we've got this very strong, record at home. We've mentioned, Regan Charles-Cook, good striker, and he definitely will be a threat, and he's got that pace that could cause us problems. I just think the way things are shaping up just now, overall, Celtic are pretty focused just now. They seem to be in a good place head-wise, and I think, we're conceding so few goals, then, you'd hope for a win, any sort of win, but a clean sheet as well. So I'll go for 2-0, and we'll see how that plays out. Just a kind of last kind of AOB before we move on to your own final thoughts for the week. David Turnbull is due back at training this week, and that's got to be a real positive for running, hasn't it? Because a guy like Turnbull, you know, with his kind of undoubted talents, he can also chip in with an important goal or two, and it could be a real bonus for Ange to have him back for the running.
The more players we have ready, the better. I've obviously had my differences with kind of Turnbull over this season. I've said that I don't think he's at the level that we need to be kind of moving to. But having said that, he's still, like you say, he's still got that good goal in him, that special goal in him. He definitely knocks the door for a place in the team. It keeps people getting pushed. Everyone needs to be on their toes.
Yeah, competition is healthy, you know, at any level. James, as you know, we now wrap up the show by asking you lads for your one good thing and one bad thing from Celtic right now. What have you got?
And you give me no time to think about it. So, Paddy, why don't you have a wee go at that first?
We've only been doing it for 3 weeks, lads. You know, maybe I should send you a letter. I mean, what's the big pluses and maybe anything that you're not so sure about just now?
One good, one bad. I suppose what I was saying earlier on about the focus that's coming now. You know, you can see up until last night even, and there's a wee bit of stuff to be sorted in the split, but now you can start to see there's the games you need to win. You win those games, the chances of you not winning the treble, pretty slim. So being able to focus on that is a big thing. One bad.
Greg Taylor not shown for Starfelt. Do you want to use that one?
Great. I thought I have to say Paddy was very generous in saying he wasn't going to try and sign a left back in March to replace Greg Taylor. We're going to give him a chance the rest of the season.
Aye, give him the rest of the season.
What's bad? That's the thing. It's hard to find.
Yeah,
it's hard to find.
And maybe this is just, you know, the format here. Maybe we don't have to have a bad. You know, there's no point.
Bad is we're getting too carried away by ourselves and you keep our feet on the ground.
That's fine. That's a turn a negative into a positive and all that. There's no, you know, sometimes we don't need to find the negative. We're not the Scottish media. We don't need to go, things are going a wee bit too good at Celtic Park. Can we find something snidey?
Usually Starfelt.
So maybe not. So Paddy, what's your one good and other good for this week?
My one good for this week is just a striker that's basically just putting himself into the right positions and scoring ugly goals. We've cried for that for quite a while, and he seems to be the guy that wants to do it. And just, his all-round play, his all-round eagerness to just try and be a help to this team. I'm very, very chuffed for him, and just glad to see him continue to kick on, and a great scoring record so far. I do have one bad, pretty poor. I obviously I only support Celtic and it will always just be Celtic, but you kind of have a wee affiliation with some teams that you think that, you know, have got like a goodness to them, a good side to them, but some of the chants for their fans last night, any time our players went in the corner, don't sink to their level, please. Don't do it.
Yeah, don't let yourself down.
Aye, absolutely.
Fair point, Paddy. So this time last year, Celtic had conceded the league, had lost their grip on the League Cup and would soon be exiting the Scottish Cup too. Fast forward 12 months and Ange Postecoglou has somehow now got us dreaming of a treble in his first season in charge. It's been an incredible turnaround and we're now looking forward to seeing where these remaining games take us. Thanks to James and Paddy for joining me today, and thanks to you for continuing to follow and support the Celtic Exchange. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and if you're listening to the podcast version, please share this episode far and wide with your Celtic network. It really makes a big difference to what we do. But in the meantime, and as always, thanks for tuning in.